Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com, your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
I have been to Pittsburgh once, and I was glad to get out of there. Tennessee was glad to get out with a win. He's Chris Landry. I'm Dave Hooker. It is time for Chalk Talk, and it's brought to you by the Mattress Place there on Chapman Highway. The Mattress Place, 30 to 70% off, no gimmicks. And we're going to break down the Vols and the Pitt game that almost was a real heartbreaker, but turned out to be a testament that the Vols passed. So he's Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. I'm Dave Hooker. So let's go ahead and get to it. Hit that subscribe and like button. Turn your notifications on so we can be a part of your day. Chalk Talk with Chris Landry. Chris, Tennessee does get out of Pittsburgh with a win. And I don't think that should be forgotten. I think Tennessee fans wanted to win by 20. They traveled in mass to Pittsburgh and took over the Pirates game even. Maybe not the type of game they wanted, but Tennessee beat a ranked team on the road. That shouldn't be taken lightly.
No, it shouldn't. Look, certainly some issues you got to clean up, as everybody does this time of year. Most people do anyway. In some areas, a lot of cleaning up to do. But when you can get a win, it's important. I think the thing that maybe I'd really focus that I think that their coaching staff, and particularly Josh, is pleased about is maybe how they won, meaning they didn't have their best stuff on offense at times. They played well enough. They didn't run the football very well. But they won it with their defense stepping up. Their defense played very, very well, and their defense had some issues, but they overcame them. They really did a good job defending Pitt's run game, and I thought it was going to be difficult for Pitt to be able to be consistently effective with the passing game. And when Slovis goes down, then I knew Pitt was in real trouble. But they were able to control things defensively, and they didn't put their defense in the best of positions with some mistakes on offense on special teams that really gave Pitt opportunities. I mean, Pitt Pitt is looking at it saying, "My God, look at the opportunities we had. Look at the positions in the plus area that we couldn't convert." So they're looking at it as what could have been, what we could have done, and we just blew it. Tennessee is a part of what contributed to that. Now, yes, they did a good job defensively, and they got off the field, and they forced field goals, and they got some missed field goals. I mean, there's some things that are real positive for Tennessee to build upon. Now, I think you go forward and you look at some of the areas, and there are a lot of them that needs to be cleaned up. How does this translate to SEC play? Well, we're going to see pretty quickly, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this team develops.
I look at the Trayvon Flowers punt return fumble that kept Pitt in the game, and my thinking on that is, here's a fifth-year senior. I don't think he's going to make that mistake again. Obviously, it was a technique thing. I thought he tried to run a little bit early through the ball, but there's some mistakes that I think are concerning. There are others that I think are happenstance that are going to happen in any sport. Out of the mistakes, which ones do you see as being a real issue, and which ones are you like, okay, that can be fixed easily?
Okay, they're going to have to run the football better. They were able to get away with it against Pitt because, again, Pitt wasn't able to run the football, and more on that in a second. So let's stay to the offense. They've got to run the football better on offense because you're going to have better balance against better opponents on that side of the ball. I think the offensive line is going to have to play better. I think if you can't run the football, then you're going to have some real pass protection problems against really good teams. So I think that's where I would start on offense. I do think cleaning up things on special teams are important. Look, it's a close game. It could have cost them.
Yep.
And so the likelihood is you're going to be in close games. And if you play sloppy special teams, you're going out with an L. And very often you see special teams kills you, it costs the game. Nobody pays attention to it until it costs you a game. And people think special teams are, we gave up a big punt return, we made a big kick return, we missed a couple of field goals. It's the hidden yardage too that matters. It's the little things that gives field position. It's the little things that gave Pitt all those chances. What if Keaton Slovis plays for 4 quarters? What if they convert one of those things? Well, then we're talking about a Tennessee loss. So those things need to be cleaned up. On defense, look, I thought they did a really good job. I think their base 4-man pressure needs to get a little better, because I think having to commit more pressure is going to cause some problems against a really good offenses that are going to have matchup advantages against this Tennessee secondary to cover. Now, you're going to have to bring blitz pressure at times. There's no question about it. But can you hold up on the back end? Getting good base pressure, 4-man pressure, is something they've got to improve upon. But I will say they defended the run against a Pitt team that likes to run, and I'm curious to see how Pitt's run defense, if their run defense can continue to be as good as it was, it's going to be interesting. That'll be certainly a marked improvement for this defense. But can they do it? Those are the things that jump out at me that I question, or I don't question their ability to do it, but I want to see it because I've not seen that as consistent, and I know the coaches need to see more of that. But overall, look, a lot of positives.
We have seen basically 4 quarters of football, because I don't know what you draw from Ball State, but and here's my assessment of this defense, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Still deficient in a lot of areas, not crazy about their linebackers and pass coverage for sure. And I think there are some talent issues as well, but ultimately this defense is going to be defined at the end of the year by big plays. They're not going to be consistently great throughout the year. I just don't see that group there unless something drastically changes.
That's correct. I would agree with that. This is not an elite defense, which is why I think Coach Heupel was so excited after the game. And our defense, how about our defense? Because he knows it's a attaboy moment. You did it. You keep your head down, guys. Defense, keep going, because we needed you, and you stood up. And I think a lot of that is they're deficient. I think there's some good edge rushers, but there's no question that really good offenses are going to have some success. So that, again, we're kind of in that period with Tennessee and with Josh. I still think he believes. Remember I said, is he going to get to the point where he plays better complementary ball on defense, with the offense? I think we're still not at the point where he's built a defense that is upper echelon level of the SEC. And I think he knows he's going to have to rely on his offense to win games for him and score a bunch of points. So the question's going to be, you're right, is the defense is not going to win you maybe as many games, and they're probably going to need more out of their offense than what they got last week, meaning they're going to have to run it better, and they're going to have to be even more explosive, because they still are going to have to outscore people to win the better teams. Now, who are those better teams that we speak of in the SEC? That's still being developed too, because as we're studying and analyzing this fall team, I'm studying and analyzing everybody, and everybody's looking at themselves and saying, we got some work to do here. So this is what makes this fun. But I agree with you. This is not an elite defense, and you don't get elite by, it's just we got a couple good players in recruiting. You're going to have to get elite players every year, particularly on the defensive line, because the elite teams do that. And they're not elite right now. And so we'll see where that goes. I agree with you.
We'll see if they can continue to turn in big plays, because I think that's what they're ultimately going to have to do.
Turn it over, create turnovers. It may not get stops, but get the ball back. You're right. And you know what? They've done that. And that's been the biggest thing that's kind of helped them to this point. They've made some, impressive turnovers.
Chris, did you think that Josh Heupel, because you and I have talked a lot about the complementary football, and and having the 4-minute offense, which I don't think they have. But did it seem like maybe in the third quarter that was erratic because of Tennessee mistakes, that maybe Josh Heupel was trying that? It looked like he slowed down tempo on purpose just a little bit.
Think he did, and I like seeing it. Again, you got to execute it. It's not like, well, he shouldn't have done it if it doesn't work. You got to execute it, because if you can't execute it right, well, then we're going to have problems. So I do think that. I also think that a part of it was, look, his defense was playing well.
Yeah.
Let's not be foolish. Let's not turn it over. Let's give our defense, who's played well, some good rest and adjustment period to finish this darn game out. And the other thing you got to be thinking of, they can't take advantage of it. I mean, we can talk about how good Tennessee's defense was in the negative area, which is the Pitt plus area in Tennessee territory. Pitt was kind of inept. I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, there's a play there. They didn't have a quarterback because Slovis wasn't in and could make it. They didn't have a receiver that couldn't get open. By the way, Jordan Addison, who we talked about with Pitt, sure looked pretty good out at USC. He's in the game. Kenny Pickett's in the game. I don't know that Tennessee wins this game, but that doesn't matter in terms of this. But what it does matter is for the flow of the game, the style of the game. I think that's exactly what he was trying to do. And I think that's something that they're going to need to do going forward. But how much are they going to be able to do that, Dave? I still think this team is going to have to outscore people. And we'll get to that as each and every week we go through the schedule and who they play and how they match up. But this offense is not as sharp as I think it's going to be as the season unfolds. 2 games in, got some more tune-up work to do here next week, and then we'll see where that offense is Florida week.
Should Pitt have gone for 2 at the end of regulation? I want to ask you that. Be sure and press on that subscribe button and that like button so we can be a part of your day. Chalk Talk brought to you by the Mattress Place. No gimmicks, 30 to 70% off each and every day. I didn't think of going for 2 at the end, but Jacob Warren, Tennessee's tight end, who we visit with on Off the Hook Sports after every game, said that he thought they would go for 2 at the end of the game. So as a coach, how do you evaluate that? Because you have a backup quarterback, so you could argue that maybe you want it to come down to 1 play, but you're at home. Typically you wouldn't do that. So did you think that? Did that strike you at all at the time?
I thought a lot about it when what they would do, and there's some general thoughts. You're right, at home and on the road, but to me, it comes down, and the whole analytic stuff about percentages. That's too general. That's non-specific to your team and the opponent that you're playing that day. I kept thinking that Pitt's offense was challenging. I want to use the term like pulling teeth to try to get the ball in the end zone. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I kept thinking about, and this is an oversense, that if this game goes into overtime, I really like Tennessee's chances, because I like Tennessee's chances to string offensive plays together and score, or I've seen Pitt struggle. So in that sense, I'm thinking they might have a better chance of hitting 1 play. And if they can win one, get 1 play and get out of Dodge, then, they're probably better off than they're more likely to get 1 play than to string a series of plays together. And that's based on their offense in that moment. In a general sense, I mean, I think everything is specific. I think that if you feel good about your offense, you feel good about your momentum, you feel good about what you're doing, there's no question that the high percentage is to kick the extra point, because you ultimately, most cases, don't want to let the game come down to 1 play. You'd rather try to win it over a series of plays, because 1 play is a lower percentage. But if you feel like you can't string the plays together, which they obviously did, so I don't question that. For me, I kept thinking, the chances of, the odds are, the team that I think can put a series of offensive plays together more readily would be Tennessee here. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I was thinking along the lines of maybe they will go for it for that reason. But, again, I don't know. Do you feel good about your 2-point play? Do you feel good about your backup quarterback executing it, making the right read? Those are all things you look at, and I'm not coaching those guys, and so maybe they don't feel as comfortable. But maybe if the situation is there and Slovis is in the game and they feel comfortable running it, running the play, meaning maybe you do it differently. But then at that point, maybe you feel better about your offense moving it. So I think all those things factor in. But I wasn't going to be surprised either way what they did. In their situation watching the game, I probably would have gone for 2. I hate saying it because I felt that as the game on, but I hate saying it because it sounds like it's second guessing. But I really felt their situation might have meant for that for them to go for it then. But
I believe you. I didn't even think of it, so I don't know what that says about me. But it didn't even occur to me. But it would have been interesting. That's not the way that Tennessee would have wanted to lose. I can promise you that. For Chris Landry, I'm Dave Hooker. The Mattress Place, 30 to 70% off each and every day. That's no gimmicks right there on Chapman Highway. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports.